Welcome everyone to the webinar. I'm Ileana Betancourt here with John Kite. We're your co-hosts for today's webinar. We also have other members of the Edulastic team in the room, Leslie Tyler and John Chen. We're all really happy to share our Teacher Premium accounts with you today. I want to do a couple of housekeeping things before we get started. So first of all, if throughout today's presentation you have any questions about Teacher Premium or Edulastic, please go ahead and direct them to the Q&A button. So hopefully you see a black bar with a bunch of menu options in Zoom. One of those bars has a bunch of folders with a Q on it, and it says Q&A. Click on that button, enter your questions, and our support team is going to answer them and respond, or we will respond to them verbally throughout the presentation. The other thing I wanted to do was to let you know that we're also recording this and streaming it on Facebook Live. If you want to go back and revisit any of the content that we covered, visit our YouTube channel. We will be posting the recording later, and if you want to get a notification, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can get notified when that video is up. The first thing that we're going to do is start a poll because we want to make sure that this webinar is helpful to you, and we also want to know who is in the audience. So go ahead and launch the poll. So we're just trying to figure out what experience with Edulastic everyone in the audience here has today. And we have a big audience today, which is exciting. So go ahead and fill that out. It'll give everyone about a minute to go ahead. And once again, I'm pretty sure that a lot of people on this webinar, from what I think I saw in the registration, either have teacher free accounts or premium accounts, and they're trying to figure out how to use their teacher premium account as best as possible, or maybe you're interested in upgrading to a teacher premium account from a free account. So wherever you're at, we're hoping that this webinar will help you understand what features at your fingertips with teacher premium and how you can make the most of them when you're working with assessment with your students. Okay, so it looks like 75% of the people voted, and what I'm seeing is that about 20% are on a teacher free account, 62% are on a teacher premium account, 17% are an Edulastic administrator of some sort or a leader, so they're using one of the enterprise accounts. And then how experienced are you? So we have about 30% are brand new. Awesome, welcome, and we're excited you're here. 13% have logged in once, 26%, 14%, 18% are pretty experienced. Okay, awesome. For everyone who is brand new, I do want to alert you that we have a couple Edulastic 101 webinars coming up at the same time next week, and then the 9th of October. So if you're here because you're hoping to learn about how to assign an assessment and set up your classes, you might be interested in joining those more beginner webinars. We're going to be talking about some higher level features in Edulastic today. So you'll really get to know how to put these features to use. So again, 101 webinar, I'll put that in the chat for you so you can register for that webinar as well. Can you do that real quick? I'll end the poll. Okay. All right, thanks everyone for filling that out. Okay, and then I do want to go ahead and ask everyone to, the other thing is that go ahead and use the chat throughout the presentation to say that looks awesome, or ask a general quick question, or share an experience that you had with one of the features. And then to open up, I also invite you all to share where you're tuning in from and what the weather's like where you are. Oh cool, Kathleen used it today, that's awesome. Natasha uses it for every single assessment. Awesome. Knoxville and rainy. We're tuning in from California over here. Yeah, we are hitting that. I think the equinox was last weekend, so kind of rainy weather it looks like on the East Coast. Awesome. It also looks like we have people from all over in today's webinar. Some New Jersey, Knoxville, Mississippi, Colorado, Roswell, Wyoming. Hi, Sarah. Cool. And I see people are also kind of sharing whether they're teachers or instructional coaches too. which is awesome. Seems like there's a good mix out there. Cool. Well, welcome everyone. Again, thanks for joining us this hour on Thursday. Is there anything else I had to share?
106 in Palm Springs.
Oh, that's hot. Woo! Hopefully you found some air conditioning or shade. Awesome. Cool. All right.
That's why
I think without further ado, I'll pass this off to you, John.
Yeah, thank you so much, Liliana. And my name's John. I'm from the Edulastic Partnerships team. And on behalf of the Partnerships team, I'd love to welcome you and thank you for attending this Teacher Premium 101 webinar. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the video, but I'm going to share my screen and start presenting some slides to you. So we'll go ahead and share my screen, share my desktop. And we'll go ahead and remove the poll and go into present mode. So can everyone see, welcome to Edulastic Teacher Premium 101? I assume that's yes. So I'm gonna go ahead and start presenting. So why premium? For those of you with free teacher accounts who have used free teacher accounts for a while or are just getting familiar, you might think that the free version has a lot in it. And that is very true. It's definitely more extensive than what most people imagine the free version would be. But there are many premium features, and I intend to talk about every single one of them. I count them at 19 additional features. So you can categorize them in different ways. There's testing tools that provide a lot more flexibility, like calculators, read aloud, collaboration with other teachers when creating drafts, adding a co-instructor, going into present mode and anonymizing students so you can project work in class. There are anti-cheating tools such as, the safe exam browser lock, the ability to shuffle questions and distractors, and password protected assessments, as well as multiple reports. There's 15 new reports, and I'll be showing you, I think, every one. And also scoring options. There's SnapScore, which is a paper-based bubble sheet scoring option, as well as rubric-based scoring. GradeBridge, which is a grade export into tab delineated external gradebooks, and also the ability to hide and show the assessment. There's post-assessment visibility options where you can show students their scores but hide the questions so they can't share those questions with their student friends who have yet to take the test. So anyway, there's 19 features, a lot of different categories. I thought, how best should I present this? It was actually the hardest question in preparing for this. And I thought, why not show the features around where they exist on the platform? And so what I'll do is I'll kind of talk piece by piece through the different areas of Edulastic and where you'll find these premium features. And then I'll open it up to questions after every section. So looking forward to hearing those questions. We have John Chen from our customer success team who will also be able to help answer those. So anyway, the premium features in the managed class area, there are 2 of them. And for those of you who are not familiar with the managed class area, it's a tab down, you can see the green arrow here to the left. And this is where you can sync Edulastic with the Google Classroom. This is where you can add multiple students, change student passwords, etc. You can also add a co-instructor here. This used to be something where you'd have to call our support team to do with premium access. Now you have it. That's just a button on the screen for you. So you can add a co-teacher and they would get complete access to the class just like you. You can also enable text-to-speech. Text-to-speech, our read aloud feature, is maybe our most popular premium feature, or popular reason for people to upgrade to premium. And I plan to play text-to-speech for you today. But in the meantime, just know that it's you can turn it on at the class level. So you can enable text-to-speech here. And you'll notice that there is a checklist to the left. So you can enable text-to-speech for an entire class, or you can turn it on for individual students only if you prefer to do that. And so, and then when you turn on text-to-speech, students will see a green play button above the questions. They can simply hit that button and hear a woman's voice powered by IBM Watson that reads the questions to them. And they can certainly hit the stop button too if they don't want to hear everything being read to them. So anyway, I'll stop there just before talking about premium features and the advanced options, just to see if there's any questions right off the bat. And I'll assume that there are not, if I don't hear Ileana in a second, giving her one last chance here. Okay, so I will proceed.
Yep.
Oh, Ileana, was there a question?
No, it's been answered in the chat. So continue on.
Okay, excellent.
Thanks. So far, so good.
Yeah, thank you, personnel in chatting and sending folks answers. That's great. So there are also quite a few premium features in the advanced options area of Edulastic. Now, when you're on the assign page, and probably a lot of you who are familiar with Edulastic know this page pretty well, it's where you've selected an assessment to assign or selected some questions. Maybe you've duplicated some questions, maybe you've authored some of your own, but you're at that final page where you're able to publish the assessment and also assign it. And so as you're doing that, as you're figuring out what the open date should be for the test, when it should close, what the policies should be around, whether you're manually opening it or closing, who exactly you're assigning it to, you also have these superpowers that are available in the premium version. It used to be called advanced options. I think the language is a little more fun now. And so I'll be talking about some of these superpowers that you will have access to with premium. So one is the ability to shuffle the order of questions. So you can imagine two students sitting next to each other, side by side, taking a test, both on their Chromebooks, and they want to help each other. Unfortunately, they're both getting the questions to the test in different sequence. So that's made it very inefficient for them to be able to do that. So that's a great reason to turn on shuffle the question order. Another one is to shuffle the answer choices. So for resequencing questions, this already exists in the free version, but for multiple choice and multiple select questions, you can also shuffle those answer choices to make it a little harder for those to share answers or help each other. You can also show a calculator. So this can also be considered not only just a tool for flexibility, but also an anti-cheating type tool. So the default is not to show a calculator, but you can definitely show one, and you can have it so students will click on basic calculator, and you can see that at the top they find a calculator icon, they click on it, and they see the basic calculator. Then we have the scientific calculator and the graphing calculator. These are all three options that are available at the test level. These options are powered by Desmos. And so why do I call it an anti-cheating sort of help? The reason why I say that is because if you're using Chromebooks with students and you have Chrome kiosk mode as a browser lock, students are able to use that browser lock, and students are unable to go to Google and find answers. However, if you still want them to be able to access a calculator, you'll want that calculator to be in the application. So this allows that. And so I think it works hand in hand with the Chromebook kiosk mode within Edulastic. There's also the Safe Exam browser. This is another kiosk mode that's a browser lock that's available for Windows and Macs. This needs to be locally installed on student devices, but it can be enabled at the test level by the premium teacher. And you can also require a password before students begin. So imagine the class, everyone's phones are away, they're looking to begin the test, and you give them a password that they put in to start the test. Anybody not in that room would be unable to take that test. So that's an additional security anti-cheating measure as well. And we have an ability in Premium to show students the scores of a test, but hide the questions. So in free, post-assessment, a student can log into Edulastic and they have two options. They can see everything or they can see nothing. So, if the teacher has allowed them to see nothing, they have no idea what they got as far as a score on the test. They have no idea how well they did on any level. But if teachers give them visibility, they can see everything. They can see all the questions. They can see their responses. They can see the correct answers. They can see feedback from the content author. They can see any feedback available from the teacher, as well as the scores. So what Premium offers is a middle-of-the-road version of that. So if you want to show students their scores, but not allow them to see the questions, because maybe there's classes who have yet to take this test, you can go ahead and turn on off to question level feedback. This will still allow, if you've made the assessment visible to students, for them to see their total scores and the order in which they got their questions correct. So they might think, oh, I was struggling with question 2, I got it right. And if those questions were shuffled, question 2, the student question number 2. So there's just a lot of good details as far as anti-cheating that are available within the premium version. And then finally, answer on paper. So let's say you're administering an assessment, it's completely on paper. You can go ahead and turn this to yes. And what we do is we have something called an express grader. And as the name implies, you can just put the scores right into the Edulastic Express Grader report. In this case, the default setting's blue. I add scores and go from there. And even for classic questions, I can actually enter the responses in too. And what I mean by classic questions is true, false, multiple choice, multiple select, etc. So those are some of the advanced options. We call them superpowers within Edulastic. I'll pause here just to see if there's any questions so far. So I think that there are no questions based on that silence. And so we have many more premium features to go. So here's the next group. Premium features within the live classboard area. And so for most of you who have been on Edulastic, who've run an assessment, you'll recognize this screen. It's the live classboard. For those of you in the free version, you're gonna see a few items here that you haven't seen. One, and the first one I'm going to talk about, is this rectangular blue present button. And you can see that the green arrow is pointing to it. When we click on that present button, we're going to anonymize the students and shuffle them below. So right now you can see we have Gavin Brown, Bianca Cielo, Amaya Costa. We have a bunch of students down there. And so once we hit the present button, we will see these students shuffled and anonymized. So we can start talking to the class and project this and talk about, wow, question 3 was difficult. I think what's even more important here with the present mode is being able to look at the question level view. So right now we're looking at a math question. We can see one of the students' work in Scratchpad. And as a teacher, I could project this in class. We could talk through how the student attempted this, whether it was good, whether the performance needed improvement. But the good thing is the student isn't put on the spot. Their name has been anonymized. It's going under green target right now. And we can talk about it without putting anybody on the spot. So that's a nice feature of flexibility within Edulastic. You can also mark students as absent within the premium version. So this is another option. So Amaya Costa, let's say she's absent. So we'll go ahead and mark her as such, and she won't be able to access Edulastic until I'm able to give her access as a teacher. And I mentioned the Express Grader before for the Express grading component of it, but it's actually helpful for some other things. And the Express Grader, yes, is within the live classboard area. And one thing that I noticed immediately is class-wide trends. So right now you'll see to the very top right, I'm in a mode called view mode. So I'm in view mode and I'm looking at question 3, and it's caught my eye. And the reason why is because students didn't do too well. And I can immediately see the reason why. It's because D, as a distractor, was very misleading and caused a lot of misunderstandings. So I can have immediate access to student level performance, question level performance. All that is available. I should also point out that even when you're not planning a paper-based test, and a student has a device issue, something like that, like Gavin Brown, let's say his device isn't working. Well, you can quickly print up a test for Gavin, and then you can enter the scores into Edulastic. Or as I mentioned before, you can also enter the submissions or responses into Edulastic too, provided that they are classic question types. For a drag and drop or resequencing question, very hard to, enter the score in for the student because it's a very dynamic and rich question type. But for classic question types, you can definitely do that. And then you can also, right next to the Express Grade or towards the top of the live class board is a student report card. Within the student report card, you have a checklist. And you can see the checklist to the left of what you can generate within these report cards. And in this case, I generated it with everything. And here's an example of a report card that I could print out, and I could go ahead and share with the students. I think particularly, great thing about this is it's a standards mastery, standards-based report card that can be provided, after every single test in Edulastic. So that's another, I think, huge advantage to, Premium when you're really looking at progressing student performance on standards and really, focused on standards-based instruction. Another nice to have with Premium is the ability to download responses. And from the free version, you can download the grades into a CSV. In Premium, you're given one extra level of capability, which is you could also download the responses. And here's an example of that. There's also something called GradeBridge. And GradeBridge is a feature that allows you to transmit grades from Edulastic into an external grade book. So if I was going to do that, I would first of all install a Chrome plugin for GradeBridge. And then I go ahead, and there's a really good knowledge base article on edulastic.com that describes the next steps as far as transferring the settings. So I click here in the More area of the live class board to this drop-down menu. I click on Transfer Settings. And based on what I've read in the knowledge base article, I go ahead and adjust the settings so that it's going to transfer to my external gradebook in a nice, clean way. And as long as the external gradebook is comma delineated, GradeBridge is a great option for exporting those grades from the teacher accounts. And here's an example of an export. I actually tried it, and with the Google Sheet, I was able to export the grades just as I wanted. So I encourage those of you who are interested to read that knowledge base article, because there are some detailed steps in configuring everything. But once you have that all squared away, then you're good to go as far as being able to transfer out those grades into another grade book. So I'll pause there. We covered a lot just then on the live class board enhancements within Premium. I'll pause and just see if there's any questions.
I just posted the GradeBridge link into the chat if anyone wants to directly look at that. And so far it seems like our team's doing a really great job of answering all the questions that are coming through on Q&A and in the chat. So nothing so far that
You would want to answer. I have marked these questions to answer live.
Oh, okay, there is one question that was asked earlier about, let me just find where it went, about if you set the superpowers for an assessment. Where'd it go? If a teacher creates an assessment and they share it with other teachers, are the superpower settings we originally add to the assessment set for anyone who uses the assignment? Does each teacher who uses the assessment have to adjust the superpowers themselves?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm assuming they go to the default settings, but I'll defer to John Chen and Leslie Tyler on that.
Yeah, so each time that a teacher uses an assessment, they have to set it themselves.
It's like the assignment.
Yep. So those settings are not tied to the assessment when it's in the assessment library. Yep.
Can John address
And
the mastery criteria?
Did you hear that, John?
Could I do what?
I think someone just asked a question, is Devin's question here. What proficiency scale does the system use for standards-based grading?
There's a 4-point numeric scale that's based that mirrors the scale that's used in a lot of different states. John Chen or anybody I don't know if anyone wants to elaborate on that. It's relatively new within Edulastic, but the feedback has been really positive about it.
That's correct. Yep.
Good. 2 for 2.
Yeah. And then we have another question that just came through from Lori. Can the password be set between class periods to be unique to the class that's currently taking an exam?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't believe that's the case because I think it's an assessment level designation, but I'll gladly be corrected if someone wants to correct me.
Yeah, I think that's a superpower. That falls in the superpower category of
Yes.
Each time you assign the assessment. Does that sound correct?
That is correct. That is where it lives. Absolutely. So my thinking on that would be that feature would be tied to the assessment rather than to the classes. You may want to make 2 versions of the assessment and have 2 different versions go to 2 different classes. That may be a way to differentiate.
You can update it. To set a new password.
Oh, sorry, back to the password question. So the question was again, can the password be reset between class periods to be unique to the class currently taking the exam?
Yes. You
Okay.
can update the assessment.
Oh, I see
Go
what you're
to
saying.
update and change it.
Okay. So it's not like 2 separate classes that are taking the same assessment. You assign them separately. One class is taking the same assessment, but the next class is going to be taken.
It depends on how you set it up. So you can set 2 different passwords for 2 different assignments for 2 different classes.
Yeah.
That's not what I thought she was asking. I thought she was asking like if
For the
you
same
give
test.
give the test, pause it, and continue it the next class period.
Okay.
That's what I thought they were talking about.
That is what it looks like, actually.
And so in that case, after the first period is over, update the assessment, change the password.
Gotcha.
For the next class.
Okay. Did you get that, Lori? So you can update the password. Okay. I'm seeing a couple technical questions in the chat. Those would be great to reach out to our support team about at support@edulastic.com. So anything that's super technical, they'd be happy to help you or troubleshoot through what you're asking. Okay.
Excellent. Well, that was some good information right there. Thank you, everybody. And some great questions. So anyway, this next area of premium features has to do with premium features within questions themselves. And I think one of the more popular question level premium settings is rubric-based scoring. So in this case, I can either select or clone an existing rubric as one option when I'm using an existing rubric. So in this case, I clicked on I created an essay question and I clicked on, add a rubric. Then I clicked on use existing rubric, and then I searched by ELA. And so anything that's been shared across the district or publicly, I would have access to view. In this case, a colleague of mine, Miss Dash, has an ELA rubric that I might want to use. So I can hover over that. I can clone that rubric and make my own version of it, or I could just use it as it is. So that's one of the options for rubric-based scoring. The other is to go ahead, and you'll notice that I've toggled now to the other side up on top with the create new rubric. So now I'm creating my own rubric. I am calling it ELA rubric. And you can see I've set criteria, I've set some ratings, and I've set some scores with the ratings, and I've also provided some descriptions as well. And so you can see clarity. I'm pretty happy with how I've done this. Arguments are clearly presented, 2 points for clear, 1 point for somewhat clear, etc. Down to the next one, I'm kind of halfway working on it. You can see it has default to rating 1, rating 2. We'll probably override that and name it something, but you can see that I've added this. I'm adding a description right now as I'm creating the rubric. And of course I can add, additional ratings. I could add additional criteria. The good news is, clarity can be worth 5 points if you want. Evidence from the text can be worth 2 points. It's really easy to create the rubrics, and very flexible too around what you might want to do. The default, as many of the defaults are in Edulastic, are do not share or private. So in this case, that's what I see first, is do not share the rubric. But I can share the rubric with the district, and I can share it across the whole community if I want to. So if you have a very detailed, specific rubric at your district, really you only need to create that rubric once and share it district-wide so that everyone can have access to it. And so I would recommend that as a best practice. And then grading with the rubric. So here is an essay question regarding a birthday party and why is it special. You can see the student's response in the box there. It took them 94 seconds to complete the essay. And I'm looking to the right now, and I can see these rubric details as I'm providing a rubric-based score. For those of you in the free version, you know that essay questions are available. You know that you can put in a manual score and a comment, similar to kind of what you see at the top. But for those of you with rubric-based scoring capabilities within Premium, you can also, rather than put in a score and a comment, you can add a comment for sure, but you can also score this essay based on the point values that you've created in the rubric. And if you forget, well, what did the rubric exactly say? You can click on View Rubric Details to see that, and you can see in green, this is where I last left this student as far as a score. So you can see that I'm giving them full credit for everything so far. I might want to reevaluate that, but this is where I can look at those details and determine, whether I want to change anything on the score or anything, and just remember the rubric. The rubric can also be student-facing or not, and that's a superpower that you're given access to. So student-facing rubrics, they'll see a little rubric icon on the top of the screen. They'll click it. They'll be able to access the rubric and have an idea of how they will be evaluated. You also do not have to show them the rubric. You can just have the rubric privately to yourself, and you can then evaluate the score that way. So for Answer Eliminate, which is the next question level feature, this is student-facing only. And basically what it is an opportunity to cross out answer options that are not the correct ones, at least according to how the student's thinking about it. So as I'm crossing out options, I'm focusing in on what may be the correct answer here. And I can just simply click on that X above and then start Xing out a couple, and then I can click that X again and be out of that answer eliminate mode and be able to answer the question there. So that can be helpful, and I think it was requested a lot because it mirrors a lot of state tests. So we added it, and it's a nice student-facing feature. And then we have premium features available at the assessment level. I'll pause here to see if there's some additional questions that we can answer right now, but then I'll show you assessment level features coming up.
Hey, John, so far so good. I think right now I'm seeing questions that we'll save for the end that aren't related to what you just said.
Okay.
And yeah, I'll let you know if anything else comes up.
That sounds great. Thank you, Ileana. And so collaboration is a really popular feature in Premium. And if you know what collaboration is like in the free version, you know why it's really popular in the Premium version. It's way more time efficient in the Premium version. So if I want to create an assessment with a colleague, I simply just add them as a co-author while the assessment's in draft mode, and I invite them to be a co-author for the assessment. As the co-author, I go to the assessment library, filter by I am a co-author to find that test. And so then we can work together. Now remember, in Edulastic, there's only one author per question. So I can duplicate and make my own versions of somebody else's question, but I can't override a question in Edulastic that someone else has authored. And so in this case, I can, suggest new, just a slightly varied version of a question by creating a different version, or I can reorder the questions, or I can delete a question. But both authors can work together and really, complete this draft a lot quicker than in the free version. In the free version, you literally have to share it. You'd have to publish it and share it at the school or district level. The other person would have to find it. They'd have to make changes. They'd have to publish it again at the school and district level. You'd have to find it. You'd have to make changes. You can imagine how time-consuming that would be. This eliminates all of that with this easy draft collaboration option. And then we have SnapScore that's available for it at the assessment level. And so you simply download the app on the iPhone or Android device that you have. You can generate and print bubble sheets. You have students complete the bubble sheets. You sign in with the app, and you scan the results, and you import the data. So there's a video that I'm going to share on this that Ileana created that I think is just a great summary.
Recording and grading bubble sheet answers has never been easier than with Edulastic's SnapScore app. To set up this premium feature, have the profile page in your Edulastic account available. On your smartphone, download the Edulastic SnapScore app from the App Store. Enter in the email address associated with your Edulastic account. Then link the SnapScore app to your account by entering the number-based passcode that is generated on your profile page. You have 1 minute to do this, and if you run out of time, simply generate a new number. The app will then be active. Return to Edulastic to check your assessment and make sure it consists of bubble sheet-friendly questions, which include multiple choice, multiple selection, or true or false questions. Here we will assign the assessment to students and then use the drop-down menu to generate a bubble sheet. Click either the notification or the button in the same drop-down menu to access the bubble sheets. There will be 1 page per student. Print the sheets and distribute them to your student. Once the students have turned in their answers, use the camera through the SnapScore app to scan and upload the data. Data automatically populates into Edulastic for each student as you scan. We hope you enjoy the feasibility that SnapScore brings to bubble sheet assessments.
Excellent. Yeah, I just love that video. So anyway, just a few additional comments on that. Of course, you're generating the bubble sheets. And I wanted to comment on one thing that the video doesn't mention, which is that you can actually add essay questions into SnapScore. So there's true and false, there's multiple choice, there's multiple select options. But if you want to have an essay question as part of the test, you can allow for that in SnapScore, and it's something that you would manually grade after the fact, but we can accommodate for that. So I just wanted to mention that you can have these paper-based tests with a constructed response that you grade, and that'll work out too. And then, of course, you're entering with the 1 minute. I always think, oh no, I'm not going to do it in time. And then I put in the code and it's been like 8 seconds. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that 1 minute is a long time actually. And then, you scan scores and you import the data. The only data that's left out naturally is time spent per question, because obviously, when the phone app is picking up the QR code and the submissions, there's no way it can read how much time was spent on each question. So that's the one missing piece of data, but everything else, the submission, for item analysis, everything else is there. So that's a little bit on SnapScore. And what I plan to share next, and we'll kind of take questions in the meantime, is I'll share our in-depth reports, a live demo of that. And before doing that, I'll also share with you a student-facing premium feature. So I wanted to show a few of these in action, including text-to-speech, just so you could hear it and experience it from the point of view of a student. So as I'm setting that up, I'll open it up to questions that may be in for those who are listening.
Awesome. Thanks, John. So one question is, could you have, from Sarah, is could you have some students use the bubble sheet and some answers and also answer some online and have all the scores show in one report?
Yeah, bubble sheet and answer them online and have them in one report. So some people are using bubble sheets, some people are doing the test online and sort of combine the student data from both of those. Is that correct?
It sounds like that is the question. Yep.
Okay, that I do not know. And so I'll defer to the experts over there in the Edulastic office in Fremont, California, John Chen and Leslie Tyler, if you could all weigh in. Any guess from my side would be reckless. My initial impression is probably you cannot, but
Can you have some
you let me know, John.
I'm going to share the question with John Chen. Can you have some questions answer on SnapScore and some answer by taking the assessment online? Or does it all have to be one, like SnapScore, if you decide to go with it?
What do you mean?
So if you print out the SnapScore sheets and you hand them to your students, but you only want to give maybe 5 students the bubble sheets, but you want the other 5 students to answer online, can you do that? Or do you know if it has to be all on SnapScore?
You can do that, but then you can, the other students that did not do SnapScore, you'll have to enter them by hand.
Okay.
Yeah, in ExpressGrader, for instance. And then the SnapScore people, you can still scan them in.
Okay. Yeah. So they can still answer the questions online?
They can, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Did you get that, sir? Okay.
Good. And so here I am in a student account. And you know, I'm going to go ahead and take this premium questions demo. Just wanted to show you a few of the premium features in a live demo as a student. So I'm going to go ahead and start the assessment. So I'm in Safari as a student. As the teacher, I'm you know, logged in Chrome, and I'm about to see Patrice start her work here. And I'll be able to see this basically in real time with about a second or 2 delay. So anyway, here Patrice is going to start this assessment. And here we have a password. So this is a premium feature that's not available in the free version. And yes, I did name the password. So anyway, we'll go ahead and start the test. And we have a drag and drop labeling question for science. So we'll go ahead and drag and drop these questions in. And what I really wanted to show here was rubric-based scoring. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. What I wanted to show here was the read aloud text to speech and let you listen to what it sounds like via IBM Watson.
Question. Drag and drop the pins to correctly label what types of energy the bicyclist is using.
So there we go. And so we'll give IBM Watson you know, an opportunity to read this next question aloud, which is a drawing response question. This is our newest question type in Edulastic, and the more examples I see of it in action, the more I really love this question. But here is IBM Watson.
Question. Draw 2 lines that are perpendicular.
Okay, so let's say this was it involved using a calculator. I can click this calculator icon here. Here we have the basic calculator. And as you can see, it's really easy for students to use. Once again, this is where the graphing calculator would be, or the scientific calculator. I just wanted to point out where that would be. And so let's go ahead and draw 2 perpendicular lines. And we'll go ahead and maybe change the font a little bit. And we'll just write 90 degrees. I'm writing on the trackpad here. And so then I can explain my answer in an essay. So not only am I using Scratchpad, which probably a lot of you are familiar with, to answer this instruction to draw 2 lines that are perpendicular, but I can explain my answer in an essay as well, which is a nice additional feature. Perpendicular lines intersect at a 90-degree angle. So I'll go ahead and describe what the reasoning behind what I did. So here's this next question. This is a video question There's Patrick Stewart in a production of Hamlet.
Can you by no drift of conference get from him why he puts on this confusion?
So rather than watching the whole video, we'll just pause it here. I wanted to point out the answer eliminate feature. And I also wanted to point out that I shuffled the order here. I use this question a lot when I'm showing Edulastic. And right now I have to really search to find the answers. I'm used to where they exist, but because of the fact that the answer options have been shuffled, I'm gonna have to do a little work here. And as a student, I may realize that, Claudius understands that Hamlet's angry. Well, that's not really answering the question, et cetera. So, I can start eliminating some of these answer choices, and then I can remove myself from answer eliminate, and then go ahead and answer what may be correct here. I should point out, meanwhile, as this is going on, the teacher can see in real time how Patrice is doing. So we can see we're on question 3. And so far there's a lot of correct answers. There's one partially correct answer. Blue means to be graded, and that's manually graded on the teacher side. And so here on my birthday, my teacher gave me a special birthday sticker. My mom baked me a special chocolate cake. My brother gave me a special present. My birthday is a very special day. So now we're asking what the main idea is, what's the text evidence to support our answer. As a student, I can start to complete my work on this essay. And you'll notice a little icon to the top right. I described this before, and I said in the superpowers area of Edulastic, you have the opportunity to show the rubric to the students if you choose to. In this case, that option was enabled. So I can go ahead and click here to show the rubric, and I can see how I'm being evaluated on this essay. So this might be helpful to me as guidance on how to go ahead and complete that. So I've gone ahead and looked at that, and maybe that's given me some additional focus, at least an expectation of how I'll be graded. So anyway, I just wanted to show you a couple of those things, especially text-to-speech. I'm going to show you detailed reports on the instructor side. But before I do that, just want to pause and see if there's any questions so far.
I think all the questions are still diligently being answered in the chat. So
that's great.
At the end, there were questions about the item bank and how questions are standards tied.
Yeah, so what item banks are available and how the standards are aligned.
Yeah, which you could address now or after the reports, whichever you think makes more sense.
Sure, I can answer that now. I didn't quite hear the exact question though.
Okay, so the one question is, what item banks are available in Edulastic? If you could talk a little bit about this.
Many, actually. And what we try to do in Edulastic is provide a few different options for sharing tests. And you can see here I have 3 different state test practice items from different Department of Educations at the state level that we've adopted into Edulastic as open educational resource material. You also notice here that they have green E's next to them. That means they're certified. And if I filter by Edulastic certified, as I have done, that would mean that we're only going to look at items from official sources. So there's a couple ways I can look at items in Edulastic. I can look at items that have been created by teachers at my school or district, teachers I know that maybe I met them at a conference, and we both talked about Edulastic at the conference. Now I'm using some of their questions because we both teach the same class. Now those might be great, perfect questions. But Edulastic hasn't certified those questions because Edulastic does not know who this author is. So we do provide some assurance, however, by certifying questions that we know this comes from an official source, like an open educational resource from, wow, we have 3 different states too, and some other ones. So a good variety here. I must be aligned to Common Core right now, ELA, Common Core. So my advice is to look at, your standards, your state standards in Edulastic. Know that there are additional resources. So if you see some resources, you're looking at science or social studies or something for your state, you may want to also look at national item banks too, like NGSS for science, like we have a generic social studies, area for that. And then look, and if it's certified, if it has that green E, but you don't recognize who it is, like Timothy Sitar here, everyone in Edulastic knows who this is. He's part of the Edulastic content team. If it's somebody you haven't heard of and they're certified, it means they're from our content team. And we provide, a couple levels of assurance. Number one is they have a lot of item bank writing experience. Number two is that the questions are definitely going to be tagged to the right standards. And number three is that, and this goes for all these certified items, that it comes from a reputable source. And we actually do an audit every summer just to statistically analyze all the certified items, make sure they're assessing properly according to some statistical sort of thresholds that we look at, and determine if something shouldn't be certified according to our standards, we'll decertify them. So anyway, that's kind of a lot of information there about content, but that's definitely hopefully moving you in the right direction. You can also go to the question banks and just look by question rather than assessment by assessment and go from there. So I know we're kind of running up on time, so I'll quickly show you these premium level reports. For those of you who have seen the free version reports and you've never seen premium level reports, you'll recognize that these are way more in depth. So anyway, we'll go to the single assessment summary. And here I am looking at benchmark test number 1. And so right now I can see that, in this case, this is a sample district enterprise account where there are, where I'm given premium access as a teacher, and the district is running common assessments, and I'm part of those common assessments, my classes. So I've administered the assessments this assessment to 3 of my classes. I can see how they are measured as far as the school and district is concerned by performance bands. These may be aligned to historical performance metrics. These may be aligned to expectations or outcomes that we're looking for this year, but I can kind of have a gauge and see how well my students are doing. I can also look at peer performance. So I can see, okay, well, the district average, 2 of my classes are right at the district average, and 1 of them is above the district average. So I guess I'm doing okay, slightly above average here with my classes. I can also compare by, in addition to class, I can compare by student subpopulation, like free and reduced lunch. So let's say we've implemented an initiative to really narrow this gap, really spend extra time with those who are, students who receive free and reduced lunch. So, we can see test by test how we're narrowing that gap. We can see it for other levels like English language learners or for IEP. So we can kind of continue to track this over time. We can also look at question level analysis. So I can see that my students were pretty comfortable in answering question 7 and 4 and 1, but look at question 3. This is what I need to focus on tomorrow when I teach. And I'm going to look at which classes did well on this. It turns out, and I actually clicked down to the class level there, I can actually see that my first period, my third period, my 7th period, they all did really not well at all. So I'm going to cover this with all 3 of my classes tomorrow. And I can also see response frequency analysis. Now, Edulastic is known for being tech enhanced. We have 32 item types. We have 6 classic question types, 23 tech-enhanced math question types, 9 tech-enhanced DLA question types, a little bit of overlap, all said and done, that's 32 item types. We may want to just know how students are doing on the item types themselves. Maybe we need to have a little bit of test-taking strategy here. Or for multiple choice, for example, here's question 3, that tough question. We can see that C was the correct answer, but look at D. We actually saw this question, I think, earlier in an Express Grader report. Where D, really caused some misunderstandings and confusion. And for those of you who are school or district leaders with enterprise accounts, you're able to see these same reports school and district wide. This can help inform PLC teams. You may realize that there's some teachers who are teaching question 3 very well. Maybe they're using a resource that other teachers aren't. You can start sharing those best practices, foster a data-driven culture with the help of these, what I consider to be intuitive reports. We also have performance by standards. So you can see across all these different standards how well we did. We can look by score or raw score. We can view by standard or domain. We can even look standards by student subpopulation too. So we can look at, those who claimed yes for free and reduced lunch status, how they did on particular, in this case, domains, I think. And then here for performance by students, we can see a distribution of all my students. In this case, I'm a teacher, so I'm looking across my 3 classes. As a school or district administrator, you'd be seeing across your school or a district. But in this case, I noticed that there's 11 points possible for this test. And I noticed that 5 of my students have below 6 points. And here they are. They range from 4 points to 5.5 points. These are the students I want to focus on. They're from period 7 and period 1. Maybe I'm going to give them an additional assessment, but I've identified them for individualized remediation. So that's the single assessment report. I'll go to the multiple assessment report to show progress over time. Now, if I want to refine my results and look at particular tests, I can. In this case, we can imagine that this is a pre-test and post-test, or 2 tests kind of covering similar standards. We can see there's a big uptick as far as performance, which is great. And we can analyze by score. We can analyze by those proficiency bands I showed you before. There's a lot of ways we could look at this. We could also look at peer level performance across different cohorts. So once again, we can look at these student subpopulations, see how they're performing compared to those who aren't part of those populations. Like no for free reduced lunch went from 69% to 81. Our free and reduced lunch students went from 62% to 77%. So they're all gaining, and we're hoping to narrow those gaps as much as possible. We can also see student level performance. Which students are trending upwards? Where is the performance flat? And most importantly, perhaps, which students are actually trending downwards after having the second test covering similar standards? And so we can identify these students right away and get to work in getting them the review and help that they need. We also have a Standards Mastery Gradebook. This is a report that's in the free version. We intend to expand upon this report with a few more views coming up for premium. But in the meantime, you're able to see, you can search by different domains, search student by student, standard by standard, click into a specific standard and look at the scores and how well they performed. So we have a detailed standards mastery view. Additionally, we have a student profile report. So I can click into the summary and click on this student here, Erin Hall, and see not only progress, but also domain level performance here. I can also, if I'm talking with Erin, I'm talking with maybe parents, community members, tutors, we can really get into the detail, on standard by standard, how Erin's performing, as well as, how many times he's been assessed on particular standards, why is he given the scores he has. So you can really dig into the data there. And finally, you have a student assessment profile that provides progress and the actual attempts on every single question. So we can go into that benchmark test number 1 and see exactly how Erin did. So one thing I'm not talking about, but hopefully is evident, is that, it's really intuitive. I'm not really thinking about what I'm doing here. I'm just clicking to what I'm interested in kind of exploring. And the design is just really nice in these reports. And, it goes way above and beyond what's in the free version here with the premium in-depth reports. So I'll stop here. I think we're just about at the end of the time, and just see if there's any additional questions.
Thanks, John. That was a really great overview, and really awesome to see how those reports work. So we are at the end of the hour. If anyone has to log off now, just want to say a quick thanks for joining us, and we have other live events coming up, so please stay tuned. For those of you who are still online and have questions, please go ahead and you can enter them in the chat or the Q&A. We're still answering away, and thank you to everyone who has asked questions. They've been really great. So keep them coming if you have them.
If any of you have any additional questions, you can always go to edulastic.com and request a personalized webinar. So then you'll be connected with the representative from your state who will be able to answer your questions. I always also like like to point out the Training Hub for those of you who are brand new to Edulastic. There's a few of you I know on this call. And there's getting started videos, links to our YouTube channel, common questions and answers, blog entries, including Sunday spotlights where teachers kind of talk about their experiences using Edulastic. For those of you training on Edulastic, we already have a kit of slides available to you. And we encourage you to follow us on Twitter and Facebook and social media, and just really get engaged within the community. It's I'm a big fan of the product, and I hope you continue to be. And just thank you for using Edulastic. And if we can provide any support or help, just let us know.